Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy mini masterclass day. I am super excited to see you all. I have actually in a different location, as you can hear and see. I am in Florida visiting my sister and enjoying time here, which is great. Those of you that follow me personally on social, you were probably able to see the little video that I did this morning. And we've got a really interesting topic to talk about today, and diving into how to create a culture of freedom. So I want to talk a little bit, and welcome, Shiva. Super happy to have you here. Hello. And I am hopeful that our special guest, Jonathan, is able to join us today as well. I know that he's been having technology challenges, but hopefully it won't be a blip in his radar, and he will be here shortly. Hi, Xander. Hi, everyone else that's joining us in. Won't be able to share all of your names, but I see you, and I'm grateful you're here. Today's topic is interesting. If we think about the word freedom, right? And let's just dive right in, right? We only have 25 minutes together. We're gonna go deep fast. And what does freedom mean? So Shiva, do you have like a Webster's type of definition on the top of your amazing English teacher brain? I'm totally putting you on the spot.
Well, I don't have a Webster's definition for it, but I mean, I know that I can say that I believe that freedom it's just being able to have free will without any barriers.
Look at you. I think you could be Webster. That was perfect. Oh, it's awesome. And it's without barriers, right? What are barriers? When we think about what are barriers in life? Where do they come from?
I mean, so barriers can come from anything. That could come through, maybe a lack of finances. It could come from, just any kind of circumstance, maybe, poor health or something, health issues could be barriers, emotional instability, or so many different barriers. So sometimes it's not always external. Right. It's just things that people just go through, I think, naturally in life.
They just come up, right? And they're created through our experiences, through our heritage, through all of the things that create our beliefs. And so when we think about our freedoms, and I want to acknowledge those in the world right now that are not and don't feel it and are experiencing the atrocities that unfortunately happen around the planet. And I don't want to get into it too much. I just want to acknowledge that our conversations today are about taking our power back and are about understanding what is within our control and what it takes to actually embody a sense of freedom, a sense of free will, a sense of that connection to what we can control, right? There are a lot of other conversations we could get down with religious freedoms and political freedoms and a lot of those things, and that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about creating an environment, a culture, whether it's your own internal culture or whether it's within your family or within your teams or within your organizations, your schools. What does that culture where it embodies freedom, what does that feel like? How do you know you have it? And what things are happening? But I want to start with what's not happening. I think that's almost easier for our brains to go to, right? When you do not feel free in an environment, free to be your authentic self, free to speak up. Shiva, what are some other things that you would not feel free to do in a culture that was not really rooted in freedom?
You wouldn't feel free and I think you already said that, like, yeah, just to be you, to be authentic. I think it would also really hinder any type of creativity. It definitely is a damper to any type of bravery or courage that you might have, right? To take risks.
Yeah. To be able to have those conscious conversations even, right? To be able to speak up. And a lot of what we've been talking about over the past few weeks, and it's kind of how we're building on different concepts and kind of going a layer and a layer deeper, or a layer up the evolution of consciousness ladder, as I've shown you guys before, or tree, whatever you want to call the infographic I created. And when we think about that Maslow's hierarchy of safety, right? And that without that, there is no culture of freedom. There is no culture of innovation. There is no next step. And so that piece is so vital to make sure that we actually can be authentic and we can show up so that we can start to, again, own our internal freedoms, who's in charge of what's going on up here, and take our power back in that way. When you think about times, and I'll think about mine as well, in our life, when we had that aha of, oh, I can change my thought about that. Or I can change my experience here just by shifting my own energy and the perception at which I'm looking at this experience through. Can you share an example of something like that?
So for those that don't know, so I am currently a classroom teacher. I've been in the field for 12 years. And I think that there have been several times as a classroom teacher where I felt like, I can't do this cool project, or I can't do some of the things that I'd like to do with the students because of the rules or the pressures from administration or the district. And I think that what gave me, kind of that spark to say, well, no, I control what's going on in the classroom, is really when I focused on how I wanted to feel and the experiences that I wanted my children to have in their learning, right? So I can't change the rules, but here in my classroom, right, I can work with it. I mean, because as teachers, we're going to do the best things for kids anyway, But when I close my classroom door, I can create this culture where my kids they're encouraged to take these risks, right? Where I've said to the kids, you know what, this is something that I'd love to try. It may not work, but let's do it, and let's do it together. So I think it was just that moment, Sandy, where I realized that it's like, I can't control everything else, but this is a place where I can make a change for me and my students. I hope I answered that well, but when I think of that,
brilliant, perfect.
Yeah.
When I hear you saying that, it's like you create that container for their freedom of self-expression, right? Their freedom to be innovative from wherever their ideas come from, wherever their best thinking comes from about, these are life skills, right? Regardless of what subject you're teaching, educators end up teaching all things, right? You don't get to just teach your subject. We don't live in those linear worlds. We actually live in this rich, vibrant human exchange space where we're all teachers and we're all students. And so being able to create that container on purpose and allowing your students to have that space where really what it comes down to is it's okay to quote unquote fail. Right? And that's freedom. If we think about that on so many different levels, if we really look at what holds us back is fear. And it's fear of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and on and on and on, right? And when we can recognize that fear is potentially driving the bus, so to speak, in our thoughts and even sometimes in our decisions, we can take a deep breath and get to this place where, okay, I do this with Lisa Chastain, my business coach. She jokes with me about this all the time. I'm like, okay, look, I got to go worst case scenario, because if I don't allow myself to go there, then it's going to keep popping up. And I'm like, I need to go there in order to give myself the freedom to express what's next, the freedom to go on this journey of leveling up, of growing, of expanding, of creating the life that I dream of. And that's kind of across the board, but it's this catastrophizing, if that's the right word, to go, okay, and then what? And then what? And then what? And the educators that I've been working with for years, usually as soon as I ask the first, and then what, when they share something, like, well, what if I get written up for this? And my response, and I do this lovingly, I say, and then what? And they go, oh, okay, yes, I hear you, Sandy. And then what? And then what? And they share it with me, and they kind of take themselves through it after years of us having those and then what conversations, because you get to this place where oftentimes for me, like my worst fear and where I start to feel not free and handcuffed by things is that I'm homeless and not eating and, drowning in a rainstorm, or I mean, something catastrophic that in experience has never happened in my life. I've always had a lifeline somewhere, someone that I could reach out to and say, hey, I'm drowning, or hey, and it's creating those relationships and creating those safe containers that allow us the freedom of, okay, I'm safe. I'm always safe. And now I can take those risks and not really, really fear failure. It's always going to come up, right? I don't think we ever arrive at not having a visceral sensation of fear, right? Yeah. We're hardwired for it. Because if we weren't hardwired for being able to judge what resonates with us and doesn't, we wouldn't be able to, quote unquote, keep ourselves safe from the tiger. We're not running away from the tiger anymore, but there is still that visceral sensation that comes up that oftentimes debilitates our ability to recognize how free we truly are to make those decisions, to create the containers, to be able to do so.
Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to add too, Sandy. So, I mean, but even creating that culture of freedom, right? When I realize that I can do that, at least in my own space, that just falls in line with everything that we've been talking about, right? That safety, the belonging. And someone last week said something about it takes courage, but this is the field, because we are advocating for children, but also for ourselves, right? Because we know that we're here to change the lives of our future. And so when you have that in mind, and like you said, this fear, so yes, the fear is going to be there, but then here's the fear. What if my kids aren't learning because I'm teaching the same way that we've been teaching for the last 50 years? That doesn't work anymore.
Right.
These aren't the same children that are in front of us. Yeah. So it's like it's necessary, to me. And I think I want to add that too. When I had that moment, like, oh no, I've got to work on creating this culture of freedom. It's like, it's the sense of urgency, because if not, that other side is no good.
If not now, then when, right?
Exactly. Because, we don't want to just have classrooms full of children that aren't getting anything out of what we're doing. We're giving our best efforts. So let's give our best efforts to something that allows them to really learn and to make the whole process meaningful and relevant for them and for us as well.
Right. That freedom of our own self-expression as educators is so empowering. And it gets us excited to get up every day again. When we choose the lens on what we're doing every day as a Groundhog's Day, right? As a,
Don't drive angry. You remember the little groundhog?
Right. We end up hitting the snooze button versus getting excited about, I feel like Dr. Phil in this moment, I apologize, it is not meant to be there. Like getting excited about our lives. Those of us that are old enough to remember Dr. Phil at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time he was on, was he before or after Oprah? Remember when we used to watch afternoon TV?
Was he before? I think he was after.
I think that was in college. You know, we did the thing. We still watch soap operas and things like that, and it was still a thing. But to be able to, like, let's take our power back as educators. Let's not be in a situation where we're just going along to not make waves. The longer that we do that, the more we're diminishing our inner light that is meant to shine so we can shine a light for the kiddos that we're inspiring and influencing on a daily basis. Because if we're unintentionally diminishing ourselves and looking through the lens of lack or looking through the lens of not enough or only looking at obstacles versus opportunities, then we're missing the modeling that is so needed, because those around us absorb more from watching what we do than hearing what we say. We know this, right? How many memes do we see out there of, you know, telling little kids not to say bad words, but yet, you know, then we do, and all of a sudden you've got a 2-year-old saying, you know, words that they probably shouldn't be saying. And they're like, what? So how do we give ourselves that freedom? How do we do that internally? If we can break down, like, what's that first step to giving ourselves that freedom?
You know what? I don't think I have, I mean, is there any perfect answer for this? But I think step one, Sandy, and it's been said before, right, is recognizing our value, right? Understanding our own power first. I deserve to be in an environment where I am free to create and free to innovate and free to teach my children in a way that I know is good for them.
Right.
That's the first part, because so much of what we do as educators is we give and we give and we give to the machine, as it were. And then until there's nothing of us left. And like you said, you have to have that value. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, I am going to school or to wherever you work in the field, and I'm making a difference today because this is my purpose. This is what I was meant to do. So I think that for me, that's got to be, for me, step one. That has to be, it has to be.
It's so important. And along those lines, a piece of that is giving yourself permission to do so, right? And being able to look at what that permission means for you. And it's different for everyone, because it can be as simple as I'm just going to give myself grace to be where I'm at, right? We talked about that with the sense of belonging and acceptance, is just permission to be me, right? I get to feel what I feel, because there's a lot going on. And then I get to choose what I want next. And that comes from giving yourself grace and compassion before we get to the layers of self-care, right? There's so many, right? Every educator on the planet is rolling their eyes at how many times they're told, just do some self-care. And you're like, can I punch you in the face? Don't punch people in the face. But
I just want to get through these grades. I have grades due, you know?
Sometimes it literally is as simple as just giving yourself some grace throughout the day and going, okay, what is within my control? What can I control? And this is how we do it. This is how we take our power back. It's these micro moments of awareness within our thoughts, within our hearts, within even our gut intuition saying there's got to be a better way, or our hearts craving something different, is going, okay, well, what can I do? Or how could I do this different? Or when am I going to decide that this is different? Or who can I reach out to that this is different? Because I truly know why I want it to be different. Absolutely. And when we can anchor in whatever resonates best with you and how your brain is naturally wired, do that. There is no one size fits all. There is no, definition of freedom that is the same for everyone. There is no definition of acceptance that is the same for everyone. You choose for you. And that's one of the biggest things that we're talking about in everything we do at Educator Dynamics is you're in charge, right? You're in charge of you. And we've got these opportunities every Thursday to connect for 25 minutes just to do a mini masterclass. And it's an opportunity for us to kind of share some of the work that we're doing behind the scenes. And one of the things I've been telling you guys about is that we're launching a Culture 101 micro school. And it's happening, it starts on April 18th. So we've got some time before we kick it off, but I am going to drop the link here in the chat on Zoom, and my team will drop it in the chat on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook Live. And take a look, take an opportunity to see if it's something that you would be interested in. We're going to start this 3-week intensive micro school all about your own internal culture and how you really take your power back and own the unique, amazing, brilliant human you are within your own situation, anchored in your own core values, and really design your roadmap with intention for you to be living a life you're excited to live every day. And we're going to do it together. We've got educators from around the world that are joining. We only have 25 places. And right now we're doing a buy one, get one free. So if you want to do this with your BFF, do it with your BFF. And you guys can split the cost, or one of you can buy it for the other one, however you want to do it. But check it out. Go check out the website. And if you want to have a quick one-on-one call with me or one of my team members, we're happy to have those calls and chat through your unique situation and whatever is right for you. This is the time. This is how we do this. This is how we create cultures that we're proud of, environments where we get to thrive and our students get to thrive, and we get excited about education again versus constantly looking at all the ways that the system isn't working for us, because all of those things are true and real. And we get to say, okay, what are we doing about it? And we get to do it in a grassroots way together, because that's how we're going to revolutionize education, is us as educators taking our power back, creating environments where we're free to be ourselves. Our kiddos are free to fail forward fast and really enjoy the journey along the way, because that's how we learn. That's how we grow. Shiva, did you want to add to that?
I agree with everything, but yeah, but absolutely, Sandy. As educators, here's the beauty of, just having that culture of freedom, is being able to be creative for ourselves. I know there were times where they would say, your kids have to write these essays. And I'm like, man, this is such a drag. But because I'm the educator in the room, and because I can create innovative things for my kids to do, I used to do this thing called modeling. So I would actually sit in the front of the room and write the paper while my students wrote their papers. And they used to love it.
Yeah.
Because they used to, what did you decide to do this? And it was a classroom. It was like a nice, a good hum, right? Where the kids were talking to each other, and we had posters all around with everyone's ideas, just from me saying, well, I don't want to teach this the same old way.
Yeah.
And if they walk into the room, I'm doing what you asked me to do, but I've just done these cool things. And look, all of my students are engaged as well. So this is what this is about. And I have to tell you, when I'm really in that mode, it's not like going to work. I'm just showing up and learning with all of my best friends. And that's what it feels like.
And that's when you get back to your why, right? Why you got into this work in the first place. And then you get to go, and I get to do this today. I know. And then our students feed off of that, and we get to do this together. We're not alone. It is scary to do things a little bit different, but that's why we're creating this community of conscious educators doing things different because we can, because we're worth it and our students are worth it. And Shiva, thank you so much for being with me every week. I love communicating with you. You are an amazing educator and just a special human in my life. So thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for being along the ride with us, and we'll see you next Thursday. Click on the link, let us know what you think about joining the micro school. And if you want to have a conversation with one of us, there's a link there where you can book a call as well if you want to learn more. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.